Hello, my most amazing artists. Today is the last day to work on your tiny art for our tiny art show. You're going to get back your canvas or canvases and make sure that your name and your class code is on every one of them. If you don't have your name, you don't get the fame, you don't get the grade. Today is the very last day to paint your canvases. It is the last day that you will have those teeny tiny paintbrushes and paint on your table. Always make sure that you're using the proper size paintbrush and keeping those hairs in a point, like a ballerina dancing on the tippy toes. Never ever scooting around on its bottom because nobody wants to go to the booty scootin' ballet. You want to make sure that after you wash your brush in between colors, as always, that you go ahead and swipe on dirty old SpongeBob over there on the other side of the bowl. You want to make an X that will make sure that your paintbrush ballerina is on the tippy toes and that you're getting all those details by having an awesome point on your paintbrush. If you are already done with your painting, don't forget that you can paint the sides of your canvas. Now, I'm just showing you a painting from beginning to end because I had an extra canvas. You should have already gotten an extra canvas if you had time last time. Today I will not be handing out any more extra canvases because I'm going to have something else that you can do when your painting is dry, and only if it's dry. So please make sure that you're only adding paint today if you really absolutely need to. You'll see why. Also make sure that if you're painting, you're using the proper size paintbrush. You wouldn't want to use a big pointed paintbrush to do something teeny tiny like details. When you are finished with your painting, you're going to wash your brushes, put them back in the bowl, and you can use an art wipe for your hands. We are working on tiny art today, and sometimes when you're lifting that tiny art, you do get paint on your hands. Now, before you get excited and start to paint today, please look at your canvas and think, do I really need to paint today? If you don't need to paint, you will be able to use the Sharpies to outline and color in any tiny little spots that you might not have been able to with the paint and the paint brushes. But you cannot use Sharpie on wet paint. That means if you paint your painting at all today or paint touches that canvas, you cannot use the Sharpies. Not only does it not work, it will ruin the Sharpies. And Sharpies are expensive, and I've made sure to get new colored Sharpies for your table. If you do decide to go back and use Sharpie today, please also make sure that you're not completely covering everything with Sharpie. You wouldn't want to go over top of all your hard work. When you're finished and you think you're done, sign your name with a skinny Sharpie in the bottom right corner. Yep, just your first name is fine, as artists always sign their work when they're finished. Then I'm going to show you what we can make to make this a true tiny art show piece. As you can see there, real tiny art show pieces always are sold with a certificate of authenticity. That means that it verifies that it's a real tiny art show piece. Just like at a real art show or a museum, all famous artworks would also have that certificate verifying that the artist is real and it's not a fake copy. You can also choose a little tiny toothpick to make a teeny tiny pencil. All of the tiny certificates are the same, but there are different colors. You can choose one for each of your art pieces and as well as a utensil for each of your art pieces too. That's just a toothpick that's been cut in half. Today we're going to be using Sharpies to give those utensils their details. For a pencil, I'm going to color the whole thing or almost the whole thing with a yellow Sharpie, making sure not to get the Sharpie on my hands. I left a little bit of that point, the wood color, just like a real pencil, as you can see here. Then I'm using the real graphite from my real pencil to color the tip of the pencil. Just like a real pencil. It might even work if you tried it, since it is real graphite. Then when I'm done with the tip of the pencil, I'm going to work on the eraser by just doing a little bit on that end there, the flat end of course. If you would like to add details, you can use the skinny Sharpie to make any kind of details on that pencil. Then you're going to use that same skinny Sharpie or a pencil to fill out your tiny certificate. Your tiny certificate has a spot for the title of the painting. Even though it doesn't say it, that first spot there, it says blank by blank. That means that you're going to put your title on the first line and then your name or your artist name on the second line. Then sign it, because the artists always sign the certificate too to verify it's theirs, and date it with today's date. Don't forget to use the teeny tiny Sharpie and not a large Sharpie. That would probably be too big and not show up very legibly. Make sure that when you're creating a title for your painting, it's a creative way to sum up your painting and give somebody a little bit of the idea what you were thinking when you made it. When you're creating your title, make sure that you're not copying anybody else's title or it's not too obvious. When you're creating your art tools, also make sure that everybody can tell what it is. If I decide to make a Sharpie, that's a little bit more difficult. So I'm gonna have to put extra details using that same skinny Sharpie to make sure that it looks like one by even adding that tiny label. Today, we're going to be working on our finishing touches for our tiny art show, which I cannot wait to finalize and see come together. All right, artists, have fun today.